Hi again, April Smith here from 30 Great North Carolina Science Adventures. Most of you know that Mount Mitchell is the tallest mountain in North Carolina. It's actually the tallest mountain east of Black Hills in South Dakota. But did you know that 150 years ago, two geologists had a debate over whether it was actually the tallest mountain? Dr. Elisha Mitchell from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill decided to travel to the mountain with his scientific equipment and measure the height once and for all. He had to climb the mountain the hard way. There were no easy trails at the time, and he had to use animal paths to push his way through thick woods and shrub. He did make it to the top of the mountain, and he did prove its height, and then at the top of the 60-foot waterfall, he fell to his death. If you can imagine for a moment what the top of Mount Mitchell is actually like, being separated from everything else, the altitude much higher, it's going to be much colder. It receives much more wind and much more rain and snow than all other areas around it. Habitats that are separated like this, scientists refer to as islands. Even though it's not surrounded by water, natural barriers or biogeographical barriers separate it from everything else. And places that are separated like this tend to have unusual plants and animals that live there. One unusual animal that lives at the top of Mount Mitchell is the spruce fir moss spider. It's the tiniest member of the tarantula family, and it's only about a quarter the size of my pinky nail. Really small. It only lives in 6 known high altitude locations along the North Carolina-Tennessee border. And it lives in the bright green moss that grows on the rocks at the top of the mountain. Now, the bright green moss is generally shaded by all the trees that grow at that high altitude on the top of the mountain. But we have a problem. The trees on the top of Mount Mitchell are dying, and there are two culprits. One is an invasive insect called the balsam woolly adelgid. The other is acid deposition from air pollution. If the trees on the top of Mount Mitchell expose the bright green moss to too much sun, it dries, and then the spiders have nowhere to live, nowhere to survive. These tiny arachnids are facing extinction, meaning global disappearance. If you're interested in learning more about mountaintops as island habitats, consider checking out my book, 30 Great North Carolina Science Adventures, and the Mount Mitchell chapter. You can help with problems like this as well by considering how to make good choices for preventing air pollution and for supporting environmental research. If you'd like to visit Mount Mitchell, don't forget to visit all of the 5 distinct ecological communities arranged according to altitude on the mountain, because different plants and animals have different environmental needs. And because humans are no different, don't forget to take along extra clothing, maybe a rain jacket, water bottle, and maybe even a hat, because the environmental conditions on the mountain change rapidly from the bottom to the top, with usually unexpected. Have a great time on Mount Mitchell, and keep on exploring.